East Africa is home of the second largest lake in the world. East Africa, the land of lakes, shakes up our preconceptions. This is where the Nile River's grand 6,700-kilometer journey begins. It is home to numerous African creatures, which consists of the most diverse species that evolve the fastest in the world. Here, the warm ways and generosity of the people resemble the bountiful water and do not hesitate to welcome strangers. We discover a new aspect of Africa that was never known before. I discover an Africa that is green and full of life. My first destination of this East African lake journey is Uganda. There are no non-stop flights to Uganda from Korea, so you have to transfer in Ethiopia. I head for Jinja to discover Lake Victoria, the largest lake in Africa. Uganda is a mix of red plateaus and green mountains. The cool climate makes it a great place to travel due to the high altitude, even though it is located at the equator. The greatest major attraction by far is Lake Victoria, which is the second largest lake in the world, preceded by Lake Baikal in Russia. Jinja is a must-see stop for anyone who is visiting Lake Victoria. On my way to Jinja, a map catches my eye among a bunch of paintings that a street vendor is selling.
이게 아프리카 지도인데요. 여기 이렇게 파란색으로 표시된 게 나일강이에요. 이게 지금 장장 6,000km를 흘러서 지중해로 들어가는데요. 바로 그 시작이 여기 빅토리아 호수입니다. 그래서 우리가 지금 나일강의 시작되는 바로 그 지점을 찾아가는 겁니다.
One by one, people start to remove their shoes. A fashionable young woman among them also stands barefoot with her shoes placed neatly under a tree. I too roll up my trousers and join where the people are gathered.
와! 여기가 소소 나일. 그러니까 나일강의 바로 원천입니다.
Evidently, the source of the Nile is surging from beneath this sign, and this small spring is always bustling with tourists.
Fashionable lady, where are you from?
From Congo. How are you?
Congo?
Yeah. I feel I'm so happy. I'm very glad to see this place. This is my first time to come here. Yeah.
Wait.
The source of Nile. 나일강의 원천. 진자, world's longest river. 진자에 있는 세계에서 가장 긴 강이 여기서 시작된다는 그런 출시입니다.
The water still remains from the rainy season, and I can't see how it springs from the ground, but knowing that the enormous Nile River originates from this small spring makes me feel reverent.
이제 저쪽으로 쭉 3개월을 흘러가게 되면 이물이 지중해까지 가게 되는 겁니다. 6,500km에 달하는 그 여정이 바로 이 지점에서 시작되는 거죠.
I plan to go off on an expedition to find the Nile River headquarters, starting at the small spring of Jinja. My first course of action is to go whitewater rafting in Jinja. Springing from Jinja, the water confronts the world's largest whitewaters while traveling toward the Nile.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Matt, what's your name?
EJ.
Matt.
Call me EJ.
How's it
Matt,
going?
nice to see you.
Good?
Yes. I'm a little scared.
Oh, it's okay. We're gonna give you
would
some
you show
stuff
me?
here.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
Swing into that one.
Uh-huh.
We'll just clip you up quickly. Helmet.
전쟁터 나가는 것 같아. Okay.
Okay, and this is where we're gonna be going. We're gonna start here.
Start here.
Yeah, and we're gonna be rafting all the way down the river
The Nile River.
to the Nile, yeah, to these big rapids here.
Wow.
It's gonna take us like 2 hours.
2 hours.
Yeah,
Wow. It's tough.
very.
Really?
Are you excited?
Yeah.
You ready?
But a little worried.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
ready?
Go!
Yeah, let's go. Okay.
Some people visit Uganda specifically to go rafting, which gives you a sense of just how big the rapids are. Finally, we have arrived at the starting point for rafting. Honestly, I'm as worried as I am excited.
1, 2, 3, go!
Okay.
With a shout out to Pep Us Up, we get on board for the 2-hour Jinja rafting experience. We slowly row out toward the rapids. The first rapids. It's as thrilling as a ride in an amusement park. However, the actual rafting begins now. This is the toughest section, and it contains a small waterfall. Once on board, there's no turning back. I row toward the rapids, keeping a steady tempo with my mates. Outside the boat, the whirling sprays make me lightheaded.
너무 재밌어요. 와, 정말 스릴 대단합니다. It was great, a lot of fun, a little bit exciting. What are we doing?
The grand finale is a dive into the water. The rafters plunge into the lake one after another. I also jump in and feel Lake Victoria with my entire body.
물이 너무 따뜻해. 좋아.
It's warm. It's nicer than I expected.
강이 너무 따뜻해요. 나가기 싫어요. 여기 있고 싶어요.
After rafting, I make my way to Kampala, the capital of Uganda. Kampala is the capital of Uganda, and it overlooks Lake Victoria in the distance. It is a place you must stop by in order to tour the lake. I find a market along the way and decide to take a look. But what's this? A herd of cows occupy the road.
소가 길을 막고 있어요. 11마리가 지금 길을 잃고 헤매고 있는데 지금 아무도 나타나고 있지 않아요.
A big commotion arises due to the cattle overtaking the road, but their owner is nowhere in sight.
우간다에서는 소가 큰 재산이래요. 그래서 장가 갈 때 10마리의 소가 필요하답니다. 와, 근데 여기 10마리 정도 있는데요.
As someone who studies food culture, I always make sure to stop by a conventional market and check out the local specialties. $500. That's only 20 US cents for a pineapple. As I'm thirsty, I pick up a pineapple. He does business with so much gusto that the wait is not a bit dull. In no time, only the flesh of the fruit remains.
맛은 어떤가 한번 먹어볼게요. Very nice. 정말 달아요. 신맛이 전혀 없고 너무너무 달콤해요.
However, another fruit captures my eye here. It's jackfruit. This is a tropical fruit that originates from Kerala in West India.
이 잭프루시라는 열대 과일이에요. 네, 동남아에 굉장히 유명한 과일입니다. 그래서 코끼리 알이라고 현지인들은 부르기도 하는데요. 굉장히 달콤하고 부드럽고 또 버터같이 고소한 맛이 나는 그런 열대의 특별한 과일입니다.
For someone who has studied Southeast Asia for 18 years, this market makes me wonder if that's not where I am.
덥고 또 비도 많이 오는 그런 동남아에서만 나는 과일인 줄 알았는데 여기 우간다 시장에서도 이 잭프루트 만나게 될 줄은 정말 몰랐습니다.
It's just how it tastes in Southeast Asia. Bananas grow well in any tropical climate, but the crop is only good when there is plenty of water. Seeing how weighty it is, I can tell that they've had a heavy crop this year. Lake Victoria is the largest lake in Africa and spans the 3 East African countries of Kenya, Tanzania, and Uganda. Among them, it is said that Uganda boasts the most beautiful view. I'm planning to board a small boat for a river safari. Lake Victoria is huge with a total area of 69,500 square kilometers. It is a blessing from God to have a freshwater lake that is as big as an ocean in Africa, where water is so scarce. In Africa, water is the most important natural resource.
바다 같아요. 호수 같지 않고요. 저기 멀리 수평선이 보이는데 도저히 호수라고는 믿겨지지가 않습니다.
The area that surrounds the lake is rich with sediments and dense with greenery. Lake Victoria is especially famous for its bird life. About 300 species of birds inhabit the area. The reason there is such a large variety is because species here evolve faster due to adequate climate, sun exposure at the equator, and abundant water. Kingfishers are what I see the most.
Green Papyrus.
Yes. Giant kingfisher and wooden kingfisher.
All kingfishers.
All kingfishers.
Why?
they are good at fishing. That's why they're called king fishers.
The sight of the birds drying their feathers is magnificent in itself. Many kingfishers mean that the lake has a lot of fish in it.
There? Oh, yo, it's good.
여기는 완전한 동물의
It's there.
천국이야.
A lizard leisurely prepares for a meal. A nice place for animals likely means that it's also a nice place for humans. I notice a freshwater fish farm on the lake. The sight of fishermen sitting in their boats looks like a serene picture.
놀라운데요. 그리고 물이 굉장히 깨끗하고 평화로워요. 그래서 여기서 정말 인류 문명의 젖줄인 나일강이 시작되는구나 생각이 드니까 아주 감회가 새롭습니다.
Not much farther. I meet some fishermen.
Hi.
The fishermen invite me over.
Hello. Go, go, go. 지금 저한테 물고기를 보여주고 싶다고 지금 열심히 노를 저어 가고 계십니다.
It is said that there are 3,000 islands in Lake Victoria.
Hello. I'm from South Korea.
This fisherman also live on an island.
Can I see it?
First, he shows me a fish.
이게 바로 영국 사람들이 들여온 나일 퍼치예요. 이게 200kg까지 나가고 굉장히 큰 것도 있지만 이건 아직 완전히 자라지 않은 그런 나일 퍼치입니다. 굉장히 입이 커요. 그래서 여기 작은 물고기들을 다 잡아먹는다고 합니다. 입을 보세요.
The Nile Perch is an invasive species which cause a lot of trouble because it eats up all the indigenous fish. On one side, women separate the fish that were caught earlier. In the meanwhile, village fashionista Namukueli's beauty lesson takes place.
검은 피부와 색채가 잘 어울려져서 미인으로 변신하셨습니다. 아주 간단한 천으로 들으니까 우간다 스타일이 완성됐습니다. 아, 멋진데요?
It's time to draw the net. Unkube means heave. I yell unkube and help pull the net. But oh no, it's just a small catch. Nevertheless, the fishermen don't get discouraged, but instead joke about it.
There's many, but now sleeping under the stone.
데이니. So they are sleeping
Yeah,
deep in the lake.
yeah.
Oh, I see.
To cheer me up, he tells me he'll show me another fishing method. He baits the hook with a worm and tosses it into the water. The line is approximately 100 meters long. He lets it hang and waits for a bite.
Catch fish now.
A little later, incredibly, he catches a catfish. He knocks it out with a stick when it emerges to the surface. The catfish is nice and fat.
You with me? This is now a catfish. I get it from the water. If it's that, we are taking it tomorrow and we sell it and we get money.
I'm told that this is sufficient and they don't necessarily need to get a boatload of fish. Now it's time for me to go back. Perhaps it's their bright smiles that have captivated me, for I can't get myself to leave even though it has been such a short encounter.
비록 물고기는 많이 못 잡았지만 푸어들 만나서 굉장히 즐거웠습니다.
True to it being the Nile's source, Lake Victoria is wide and bountiful. This abundance is maintained by the peaceful coexistence of diverse species. The abundance and peace of the lake becomes a river and extends out into a larger world. For my journey in search of the headwaters of the Nile, I trace a river called the Victoria Nile, named for originating at Lake Victoria, and travel 122 kilometers north to Lake Cayuga. Upon arriving at Lake Cayuga, a vast papyrus swamp unfolds before me. Growing up to 3 meters tall, this papyrus is the very plant that ancient Egyptians used as paper. It bears a majestic ambiance, as if to be the actual origin of the Nile River Valley civilization. Huts with papyrus roofs huddled together to form a rural village next to the marsh. As I arrive in the village, children full of curiosity are the first to approach. There's nothing better than a camera to make friends with children.
미녀들이 지금 오고 계십니다. 미녀 사총사. 한번 가볼게요.
In my look around the village, I encounter a group of fashionable young ladies.
아밀라. You look very beautiful. It's very special. It's much better than I. I can try? Can I try?
African women enjoy wearing headscarves as fashion items. The colorful headscarves are fashionable items that match well with their dark skin. Will it look good on me too?
Okay? Yes? Okay? 네, 제가 이제 마을 주민이 다 되어가고 있습니다.
In return, I give my hat to Amila. She looks good in either, as she is such a beauty.
모카야! 모카 솜이야!
I find some women working in a cotton field.
지금 딸을 뒤에다 업고 지금 모카솜 따고 계세요. Can I help you? 모카솜이야.
The wetlands in this region floods over in the rainy season, which produces natural fertilizer for the soil. The British went so far as to build the East African Railway in order to transport this cotton.
모카가 이 사바나 기후에서 주로 잘 자라거든요. 지금 우기와 건기가 뚜렷해야 자라는 식물이거든요. 이쪽 지역이 지금은 이제 건기인데 이제 우기 때는 여기가 다 물에 잠기는 이제 그런 지역입니다. 이게 모카 솜이에요. 그래서 이렇게 열매가 익어서 이렇게 탁 터지는 겁니다. 솜이? 와! 이렇게 많이 따셨습니다.
This year is a rich harvest. The village is full of talk at the arrival of a strange foreigner. I am told that no other tourists other than me have come here because the village is so far from any tourist sites.
동네 주민들이 다 저를 보러 이렇게 와주셨습니다. 제가 한류 스타가 된 것 같습니다.
The cotton, once picked, must go through another manual process. They must remove the seeds and dust. Afterward, most of the cotton is exported overseas.
You are the 이렇게 좀 딱딱한 씨 같은 부분들을 이제 제거하는 게 이제 이분들의 지금 일이십니다. 그래서 이렇게 이걸 다 제거해서 부드러운 손만 모아서 시장에 내다 판다고 그래요. 그래서 킬로당 약 2,000실링 정도 한다고 합니다.
The entire family has to pitch in, as cotton requires so much work.
But this one is the old, yeah? The first one. This one is the second, this one is the third.
Oh, really?
Yes.
All of them are your wife?
Yes.
Oh, you are very, very powerful man.
Some tribes in Uganda are polygamous, which means any man can get more wives as long as he has economic power.
In our culture here, you can have even more than 3 if you want. We bought it at 3 cows. This one for only 2 cows, and this one is only 3.
Slowly.
I take an expedition on Lake Cayuga on this canoe. Victoria Nile, which starts in Jinja, spills into this lake. The dry season begins in December, which has currently decreased the water level.
지금은 건기라서 이 정도인데 우기가 되면 아마 이 지역은 다 물에 잠겨 있는 그런 지역을 제가 들어왔습니다.
Papyrus functions as a buffer between the wet and dry seasons and helps to make sure that the water doesn't get too low or too high.
이게 지금 습지에서 사는 식물이거든요. 그래서 이곳이 범람하는 그런 습지 지역임을 보여주는 그런 상징입니다.
I hear the sound of children's voices at the end of the marsh.
이곳에서 아이들이 물장구 치면서 놀고 있네요. 얘네들은 수영장이 필요 없습니다. 호수가 놀이터가 되고 있어요.
The Spongy Papyrus swamp is another playground for the children. They play innocently in their bare nakedness.
고기를 잡았어. 이거는 여기 토종 물고기예요. 나일 퍼치 같이 외래종이 아니라 여기 살고 있는 토종 물고기. 아이들이 이렇게 봐서 잡았네요.
Perhaps the people and lake start to resemble one another. Like Lake Cayuga, where foreign species have not yet invaded, the people here also retain an innocence about them that have yet to be tainted by modern civilization.
빅토리아 호수가 굉장히 넓고 광대하고 우아한 그런 여왕 같은 호수라면 이 큐바 호수는 굉장히 순박한 미소를 지닌
젊은 여인과 같은 그런 느낌의 호수입니다.
Amuka sagura munyaza muri mesente muri mosyodo muri mumaizi kunywa nifuna mesente mwaranga mulwaire ono bintu nobambira
kulima mu mutiere nifuna mesente.
It is now time to say goodbye. I leave Lake Cayuga and these warm, friendly people with it. On my Nile River expedition, I leave Lake Cayuga and head for Murchison Falls, the end of Victoria Nile journey. The road to Murchison Falls offers me yet a different landscape from what I have seen so far.
지금 계속 내리막길을 가고 있거든요. 지금 고도가 1000에서 한 700m 정도로 지금 낮아졌습니다. 경관이 계속 바뀌고 있고요. 기온은 점점 올라가고 있습니다.
I start to feel the typical hot, dry African climate.
지금 여기까지 이렇게 폭포 소리가 들려요. 굉장히 수량이 풍부한 폭포거든요. 한번 가보겠습니다.
My heart races faster as the sound of the waterfall gets louder.
와, 저 엄청난 에너지가 여기서도 느껴집니다. 저 하얀색 물불어를 보니까 빨리 가고 싶은데요.
Finally, I reach Murchison Falls, the Victoria Nile's final destination. Starting at Lake Victoria, this water travels 350 kilometers to get here. After such a long journey, the water has increased and has become more colorful. As if to prepare itself for the long journey ahead, the water that falls seems strong and firm. The water from this waterfall will converge with Lake Albert and start its real journey to the Nile River.
이 빅토리아 호수에서 시작된 물이 쭉 흘러서 큐가를 거쳐서 빅토리아 나일의 마지막 포인트까지 와 있습니다. 여기에 머치스 폭포가 강한 에너지를 뿜어내면서 떨어지고 있고요. 엘버트 호수에 바로 만나는 합류 지점, 즉 델타 포인트에서 모이게 됩니다. 이 물은 다시 나일강을 따라서 쭉 흘러가서 수단, 이집트를 경유해서 지중해로 가게 됩니다. 총 6,000km가 넘는 엄청난 강의 여정입니다.
It's a great journey that takes 3 months to pass Sudan and Egypt to reach the Mediterranean Sea. Instead of standing immobile, the law of nature is to persistently find new roads, never stopping. I, too, dream of a new journey here at the endpoint of the source of the Nile River.